Please give an applause for Eugenia.
It's my clicker. Does it work? Yeah. Yes. Hi. Thank you for coming. Bit of a challenge this morning. Anyway, I'm going to try and explain to you how did we come about merging to another local company. A bit different, not part of the normal merger and acquisition thing that you would see here in Europe. A bit of a background, I come from one of the two merged companies. We're based in Argentina. We focus on the Latin American market, and ours was more of a lifestyle business rather than a growth business. We merged with the other company January 2017. What we tried to do in the previous company that pretty much led to this merger process is we had a very thorough monthly meeting trying to compare forecast to actuals in terms of sales, in terms of performance, employees' performance even, a bit of everything. That forecast to actual exercise is probably something you all do. Maybe what we do a bit more thorough is the exercise to try to understand the deviations, why the deviations occur. We had a forecast that we thought it was well thought, and it was very possible. And when we didn't match that forecast, we tried to find the causes for deviation. Those causes went from the very, very small, for example, the analysis of the spread between the profit among accounts. Different accounts have a very different profit margin, and that spread was fairly big, trying to understand that and the causes of that, to the very, very macro. Are we not performing, or should we change our forecast based on whatever might happen in the general economic climate? At that point, that was 2016, we started to see how the general economic climate did affect us, and we have never taken that into account in our forecast. We had very clear goals that were tied to the purpose of our company. What we were trying to do was to create and sustain a sustainable business. We have a set of employees and a set of freelancers, very compact, and they work solely or primarily for us. So we were trying to get a sustainable business so they could make a good living out of it. But still, we were a lifestyle business rather than a growth business. Our goals were tied to that. To achieve that purpose, we needed to professionalize some areas, we needed to grow revenue, we needed to mainly outgrow the lifestyle business model. And of course, the pet hate I have a differentiation. I just heard it to no end, and in Argentina it's very difficult to achieve that. As Sophie said, plenty of companies, we all focus on pretty much the same language pairs. We're very similar. In fact, some of you might have noticed there is another one, Eugenia, also called from Argentina, and people keep confusing. They think we work together. It's very, very difficult to differentiate even people, not just companies. Why were we not achieving those goals? Why couldn't we professionalize some areas? For example, vendor management. Well, we didn't have the manpower to do so. We couldn't hire a full-time vendor manager. So the vendor management was part of someone's job, but not all of it. And that happened with plenty of areas. For example, for me, I did the finance, and I also helped in operations. So it wasn't quite ideal. We didn't have the manpower to do so. Why could we not grow revenue? Because we didn't have enough business development man-hours. Why were we still a lifestyle business after so many years trying to, what I mean by lifestyle business is a business that it's very tied to the owners. The owners are still a key part of it, and they are indispensable. You cannot leave your company, and it will not perform the same way if you're not there. Probably some of you are in the lifestyle business. We were trying to move away from that. We needed a growth business that could perform without us, just because, well, we weren't getting any younger. We felt the responsibility to do so. We had, at that point, we had 15 employees that were depending on the company. It wasn't ideal that it was depending on my partner and myself. We didn't have enough people to delegate. Also, it was really hard to decide to delegate as well. And why couldn't we not differentiate? I did put in there not enough time nor money. That, and maybe we didn't find, on hindsight, maybe we didn't find the proper way to do it, but we blamed it on money anyway. We had this monthly meeting, and so we were in this chicken and egg situation. Why are we not growing as much as we can? Well, because we haven't got the man hours. Why haven't we got the man hours? Because we're not growing. That's why we haven't got the man hours. That was very depressing. And at that point, we started to see a pattern to emerge. Every single goal we were not achieving, or every single thing that we were trying to do that we were not doing, was kind of tied to exactly the same thing. We haven't got enough people. And why? Because we haven't got enough revenue to hire more people. So we started a client-based analysis, just to understand where our business was. We started to analyze our client base by type. We had 80%, you cannot see the numbers, that's such a shame. We had 80% MLBs and 20% end client. Not client, it's one. That was pretty, this 20% is an end client. It's very stable. We were really never worried about them. Still, you never know. And then when we go to the spread on the clients, we had 20% that end client. And then on the MLB side, let me just, why can't you just see the, I don't know why. Anyway, a third of those MLB clients were just our two main MLB clients. That ends up being almost half of our billing coming from just 3 clients. End client, very stable. MLBs, one was very stable, very happy with us, good relationship. The other one, we really didn't like them so much. And in terms of location, well, it happens to all of us, don't lie. In terms of location, most of our clients, 85% of our MLB clients or about there, are US-based. What did that mean for us? That means, well, we are vulnerable because not worried about this guy, but, these 2 guys, one of them worried about it, we don't like it, the PMs don't like it, that's a big issue. But also, we have this much billing, they are also in the US, but never mind, this much business coming from the US, and they were going through election year. And a big chunk of what we do is government funded. So we were uneasy. What is going to happen? Are they going to be new contracts, new bids? Will they have the same source of money to buy translation? Hopefully, but at that point, we didn't know. We were also going through election time, so we kind of, were worried about that as well. That was a really nice analysis, bit of a worry for us. But what happened there? When we try to go even deeper, as I said, a big chunk of what we do, it's government funded. But what is a big chunk? We don't know, because our previous TMS wouldn't allow us to report based on, for example, vertical. And, well, thankfully Plunet does. But maybe not everyone is like setting it up in a way that you can actually see the vertical. I don't know. Everyone does it? No. Okay. Well, so that was a worry for us. We couldn't, on our previous TMS, we couldn't see it, we couldn't report it easily by account nor by vertical. That was an issue because you kind of know when some accounts will go down or, for example, for seasonal verticals, but when you're not too sure how much of your volume is coming from that vertical, it's really difficult to assess the threat. So that unmeasurable threat, we weren't sure about. How much are we really doing? Is a perception that we're doing an awful lot of education, or really a big chunk of what we do is government-funded education? We weren't quite sure. And that was the key moment when we said, well, all very nice that we cannot hire more people to professionalize some of the areas, but this needs to change ASAP. One thing is to have a threat. A very different thing is not being able to measure it, because there wasn't, at that point, very much we can do about it. What was happening at home, we had, you know, Argentina-based company, usual thing, inflation, cost increases. Our exchange rates were always, I mean, when you think about our business, you think, well, a hike in the currency exchange, probably, you know, if you work with the UK, for example, or the US, a change in the currency exchange, especially if your currency is depreciating, might be positive for your bottom line. In our case, it wasn't. It wasn't because the hike was below the inflation levels. So we kept adding cost a lot more than we were getting more pesos for our export business. What did that mean? That meant we really need to start thinking very carefully about where are we selling. Of course, rate pressure, I'm not, you know, you all know about that. I'm not going to even mention it. We came up at that point with a list of pains. The historical pains that we were dragging for quite some time was lack of enough revenue to buy more manpower, an awful lot of local competitors. Argentina has several companies, as Sophie said. Also, we have an association of translation companies, something like 15, 20 of us, I don't even remember, all very similar, vast majority women-owned, very difficult to differentiate. It's literally like being on a royalty-free franchise. You don't really know which Argentinian is that. So differentiation was, you know, a lot of local competitors. The company dependency on partners that I mentioned, and the spread of revenue. That was one of our pains. We needed to spread our revenue on more clients. And we had the current pains, the changing landscape for our clients. Our clients were also worried they would lose their contracts, and of course, the cost and rate pressure. So at that point, we said, well, what will change this situation? Well, we need to dramatically change our revenue. We need to change that tomorrow. How are we going to do it without buying an awful lot of business development hours? Well, we need to get someone else's revenue. So that's when we said, that will solve manpower, we will have an awful lot more people, that will solve revenue issues. We needed to get to a revenue level that will allow us to spread the overhead in a more friendly manner for the company. So we said, well, most of our pains will be solved by overnight growing revenue. So we started scouting for new partners. We made a list of, it was like a dating profile, if you like, must-haves. They must fill the gap of talent that we have. We did have a bit of a gap on talent because I'm not a linguist, so we needed more people in the company with a linguistic background. they need to bring talent. Basically, we needed man-hours, so we were keen on getting a company that would have a vendor management department. That was a bit of a pain for us. And we needed to leverage on the synergy. We needed people, you know, efficiency gains, all that thing that you already have heard about in a merger and acquisition process. We needed someone that will allow us to grow overnight, but also to be more than that. On the soft side, it was a very important thing for us that we shared the same values. As you know, not all companies are the same. We needed that because we spend an awful lot of time at the office. And the shared outlook on life in general, we needed that to, you know, be able to happily work together. Otherwise, that wouldn't have worked. So we made our dating other companies' profile, and we proactively started approaching them. Oh, I didn't put a slide on that. Anyway, we made a list, a prioritized list of other companies, and we went one by one in order, scouting them. The third one came along. What happened? They were a very similar company. I'm not going to talk about the process of the merger itself. You can read an awful lot about that. I'm just going to maybe tell you about what we perceived at that time. What we perceived is the milestone to come to the decision to merge was to define the new roles. I mean, we were going to be 4 partners now, and we were going to have to merge 2 teams of people. So there were overlaps in there. The main issue was, for the 4 of us, to find a new role that we would be happy with. We thought that was really, really important. And obviously, our revenue levels were different, and the profit margins and everything else. So coming to a money agreement was a big issue. We thought that would be like the milestones. If we agree on money and we agree on the roles for everyone, we will be set. That was absolutely not the case. That was, you know, an awful lot of wasted time. We spent 8 months on the discussion and the due diligence. That was a waste of time because we agreed on that in a bit of time, but it wasn't a pain. What we really needed to do was agree on the goals of the company. We couldn't actually move forward until we sat down and said, okay, let's write down a list of goals and a plan on how are we going to get there. And that was the real discussion. The real discussion wasn't how much is my company worth, what am I going to do in the future, are you going to commit to stay in the company? That was not key. What was key was, let's sit down, write a list of goals and write a plan that we all can agree on. That was, you know, that was a one-day meeting that once it was finished, we knew we were moving forward. That due diligence was, we had another TMS that wouldn't allow us to spread everything and report as we wanted. The other company did have Plunet. That made the due diligence so much easier because you could actually quantify by account, by vertical, by client, and also the projections and the forecast was a lot easier. So in terms of evaluating the company, it was a really big help. So if you're thinking of maybe selling, I suggest you set it up properly so the due diligence will be shorter and not as painful. So to sum up, what I suggest, you know, even if it will lead you to think about selling or merging or acquiring, even though it might not lead you there, regular review of plan against goals. Is my plan really gonna take me to where I want to be? And that it translates to my purpose, the purpose of my company. Does it really match my goals? Or the purpose of my company, as I have described it on a website, is, I don't know, to create a more open world and so people can communicate, but really my goal is revenue. It doesn't really translate that well. So that cross-check, it really works as a compass. It really needs to pull you to where you want to be. The exercise of analyzing the causes of deviation, if you can find them, at the beginning it's quite hard to think of what might have caused the deviation from forecast to actual, or even the deviation from the plan. Sometimes you have a plan and you deviate from it unknowingly. Analyze why. Why am I deviating from my plan? Well, maybe your plan, you're not that committed to it. And why am I not performing as my forecast? Well, there is a cause. You have to proactively find it. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to correct it. That exercise of looking back and trying to find the deviations will allow you to forecast the possible new threats or even correct the current threats. That threat analysis, it's a very healthy, probably it's for paranoid people like myself, but it's a very, very healthy exercise because forecasting what could go wrong, we ask our PMs to do it every single day, and yet we're not doing it as proactively as we should. So once you have your analysis and your analysis of causes, apply that Pareto rules. 20% of causes cause 80% of the problems. That's a general rule that applies to absolutely everything. Look it up. Find those causes. There aren't that many. Most of your issues, most of your pains or problems are caused by only a tiny little list of causes. Find those causes and do something about it. So this was the thought that led us to a merger. We need to be the disruptive force. If we don't do it, someone else will do it. Thank you.